So yeah, so this is the, now what you can see behind is a view of Mount Everest from another angle, okay? So it's not, but maybe we'll get better views also. Okay, now I'm standing at Gokyo town, which, and just behind me is a glacier, which is the biggest glacier in the world. It's called the Gozumpa Glacier. And actually, it starts with the N, Ngombuzpa.
Wow.
So it's a bit of a tongue twister to pronounce. So this is it, you know. So this is the glacier which is right at say 15,000 feet, okay, and it's the largest glacier. And this was the month of October, so there, of course, quite a bit of it was frozen, and still, you know, if was it December, you would probably not see the water at all.
Really? Why is that?
Yeah. Now this has got, you can see
Check
to
you
my
out.
left is a,
Okay.
yeah, to my left is the Mount Everest, and
Okay.
to my right, the white peak is the Cho Oyu. It's the Cho Oyu peak. Now I'll just tell you the Cho Oyu is about 8,188 meters, and Mount Everest is 8,888. So this is little less. And then, of course, there's Lhotse, Makalu, Karakoram. So, you know, all these are there behind. So they're all different peaks, but they're, you know, a little further away, so they look smaller. See, Mount Everest looks smaller than Cho Oyu because Cho Oyu is actually nearer, much nearer. But these are the top 7 peaks, you know. So you can, yeah, you can just see. I mean, you have, of course, Kanchenjunga, which is not visible here. That's, I think, the second highest, or the third highest, which is nearer to the east of Nepal. Nepal-India border. Now, these peaks are on the China-Nepal border. And then the number 2, I think, is Karakoram, which is in the Pakistan part of the range of the Himalayas. So 1 is here, 2, 3 are not here, and then you have 4, 5, 6, 7 are all here. Okay, so you can see 4 of them. Okay, so yeah. So this is the Cho Oyu peak, and there you can see the glacier. The same Nakazumba Glacier. This is on the way up to Gokyo Ri. Okay, this is another. Okay, this is just yeah, these porters and how they carry their load and they carry up. So I did use one of them. Okay, I think this is the guy who was with us to carry, because I had, since we were doing about 2 weeks, I had a lot of stuff, you know, so I could carry one bag, but this guy, he could carry my bag and a couple of others on his, you know, they put sling it around their head. And
so he's what you call the mountain porter.
Yes. He's
half
my size.
Your caddy.
He is, yes. But they're so strong, and they're like mountain goats. They just jump up, you know. So he would be far ahead of us, and
is that a strap on his head to help with the weight?
Yes, that's a strap. Yes,
a strap on. So, wow, so he's using his head muscle as a
his head and neck, his neck muscles. Yeah,
right.
Wow, and. So he must have carried, I think, easily maybe 60 kgs, you know, easily. So that's the strength they have and the agility. Yeah. Okay. These are the. There are a number of these bridges which go from one. They cross these rivers. You know, so we kept crossing this Dudh Koshi River and the Koshi River. So they've made these suspension bridges, metal bridges. Now, there's one thing is they had really revere the animals. So once these animals steps onto a bridge, the other side, nobody gets onto the bridge. So there is place at the side to move and all, but nobody gets in. It's the right of way of the animals. So you just wait, let these yaks, or what they're called, the mountain modes of transport.
Animals get stubborn. What if they stop?
Stop. No, but yeah, there's a guy behind who just goads them on, and so they keep moving. They do sometimes, but you wait patiently, and these bridges really move, because they're suspended, but they keep, they keep vibrating, so
if you have vertigo or your fear of height, this is going to be tough to do.
Yes, this is a tough part, because there are so many of them. So you finish one and then you say, oh God, there's maybe another one.
Yeah.
But but that's so
that's how you do it.
Yeah, so that's how my experience is. Okay, it's the mountain. It's not the mountain, but we conquer ourselves, because Edmund Hillary's words. So it's wonderful to be up there, in spite of whatever low oxygen, our SpO2 levels is to be even below 89, whatever. But we have to, and all the weight and the strain, and the weather keeps changing. Suddenly it's sunny, suddenly it's windy, suddenly there is mist or snow. So all that challenge is there. But once we conquer all that, we really feel that we are in charge of ourselves and our emotions. Yeah. So this is not some of the other bridges. You can see that's the river below. These were the 3 Gokyo lakes. There's Gokyo 1, 2, 3. So you can see one is, this is from the peak, Peak. So you can see they're all fresh water. So when you enter from the other side. So you enter the smaller one, there's one, and you come to the largest one. They have also lakes of sanctity. So people don't swim or go inside or do boating or anything. They're just kept preserved as it is. People just walk to the edge of the lake, and there are times of the year when there are a lot of the Hindus would come up and maybe the worship, but there is no nothing around, construction, no activity. It's just kept, very clean and preserved very well. So this is
Brian. Donna's asking, what was the temperature like in October?
It is. So this was around, I would say around 0 centigrade. So that's 0 degrees centigrade, or it must be 32 Fahrenheit, is it? Right. So around that, yeah. So not too cold, but nights, yes, nights would go down to -5, -10. It would drop about 10 degrees. Yeah, so not so bad. But it was the last week, I think, because after that they stop, generally the treks, because it gets very cold, and then blizzards start in. So, but we couldn't go earlier because, it's the monsoon period, July to September, and it becomes very slushy, and it can get, there could be some landslides, it could be in the lower ranges. So therefore we planned it for October. Otherwise, April, May also is good. But most of the snow doesn't melt by then also. So I think it was a good time we went, And and the nights, there is no heater, but you stay in those, they call them the tea houses. I'll show you probably this one. So they have, this is a Damchi Bazaar. So they have in different places. So you can stay for the night, but of course, they only provide you hot water and meals if you want, but there is no heater as such. But so you so you just you have your shower, it's very fast.
Yeah, I've stayed in one of those in Simla. Yes.
Okay.
It's very cool.
Yeah, so they have quite a few of these up to at Gokyo. Even in Gokyo they had, but yeah. So you need, okay, in the central area where you congregate for dinner, that's where you have some heating, but wood heaters but then so people don't like to leave that area and go to their rooms because it's too cold. Yeah,
Cool. Yeah.
yeah. So, okay, so this is Lukla, actually, from where you go, from Kathmandu, you come here. This is the highest airport in the world. It's about 11,000 feet or so. So it's a very narrow, this thing. And the runway actually is at an angle. So it lands at a low and it goes up, the plane. So it's very tough landing. So if there is even a little cloud mist, they cancel the flights. So sometimes you are for days, just stuck at Lukla waiting for a flight back. You could trek back to Kathmandu, but that would mean, so many more days, So you prefer to, stay put till you get a flight back. So we did have to wait, I think 2 days extra when we reached back here, because the flights were canceled, and then they reschedule, and so depending when you get your next slot. So coming back, the team was all on different flights, and we didn't know if we'd ever see, because one person goes and we don't know if we will take another 2 days or sometimes more to take the flight back. So we just say our byes there. But fortunately, we all reached back to base on the same day, but on different flights. Yeah.
Wow.
So this is the local rum, and which I had on the end of my trek because, hello.
Yeah, we're listening.
Oh, okay. You all disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, yes, called the kukri is actually a knife. It's all these Sherpas and the Nepalis carry. In there, it's which they have put on the side on their around their waist. So it's something. The end. During the trek, of course, totally forbidden. But the end. I was stuck for 2 days at Lukla. So, and there were a lot of Americans also who were there. I think I remember from Minneapolis and from other parts who were also stuck. So we had developed good bonding, friendship, end up sharing all our experiences. And so I was surprised that many of the Americans, this was their first outing out of the country, and they decided to go to Nepal. So that was wonderful.
It's one of the top bucket lists to climb the Mount Everest.
Okay.
But Brian, I've got my next speaker, but
yeah, so I finished. Yeah.
Yeah, take your time, but take your time. I think that was fabulous. I really think. Okay, don't you think, everybody? Yeah. We need to give you a big hand. That was really fabulous.
Thank you.
I thought.
That's quite symbolic too, I think, Brian.
Yeah.
The climbing of mountains, and no matter what hill you're faced with, and whatever challenge you're looking at, the hill, and the best. What was the last line? The hardest climb always offers the best view after you finish. I mean, if you work hard, you really push yourself, you face the obstacles of the climb. Now, when it comes to climbing, something like, Mount Everest, but Nepal must be pretty exciting. Thank you for bringing that to us, Brian, and kudos to you.
And there is it's very strange.
Where's your next challenge to climb?
Yeah, I thought of going again, but I was surprised to hear that many Mount Everest climbers a few months back tested positive for COVID, because COVID has reached even Mount Everest. So therefore we have to think, because it's probably they didn't have enough restrictions or take enough precautions. So we just have to keep things, maybe wait for a year or a year and a half, to let things settle down.
We had an author who climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, which is in
Kilimanjaro.
Kenya.
And we have James, who's a Kenyan tour guide.
Right.
So absolutely.
And
but thank you. Any questions for Brian before I move on to something very new and very interesting? So this is Brightside Global Trade TV.
Brian, this is Donna.
Yes, Donna. Hi.
Hey, Brian, this is Donna. You know, I lived all over the world in the military. Some places very, very cold, but mostly I seem to always go to these hot places. But anyway, it seems like wars erupt in hot places. You got me? Yeah. Nobody wants to fight, you know, wars in cold weather. Soldiers are smart that way. Yes.
Yeah.
But anyway,
you're right.
So my question is this. So, you know, yeah, people fight in hot places. So when you were going up the mountain and going on your trek, do you think it was the physical challenges that sometimes were the hardest to overcome, or was it just the mental situation of, you know, I've still got, you know, another 3 miles to go or 5 miles to go? You know, I'm just curious as to what was your biggest challenge, your mental state, or just the sheer environment? Because I know a lot of times when I was overseas, the environment was so challenging that was my enemy. The real enemy was easier than the environment I was trying to survive in.
Mm-hmm. You're right. For me, it was the mental challenge, because because whenever what happens is, supposing we know today we are going to climb 3,000 feet, but that 3,000 feet, it's not like you just go up 3,000. You go up 500 feet, you come down 1,000 feet, you go up 2,000, you come down 3,000, and it goes up and down. And the net effect is, you know, so is 2,000, 3,000 feet. And he said, oh God, you know, like, it's, why can't we just walk up? You know, we are going in this, you know, wavering fire. But that really gets, I mean, you may have walked 10 kilometers or 15, but your net gain is so little, you know. So, and so that's one the challenge. And then when you do feel a little sick, like one night I had a headache, and I saw a lot of the mountain climbers, you know, they were probably bringing up, or they had, you know, a lot of health issues. So it comes to your mind, am I going down with some mountain sickness? You know, it could be pulmonary, it could be, you know, cerebral edema, a lot of things, because they do tell you about out of there. So, and then even your people, your co-hiker who are with you, they all look very, you know, very stern, you know, they also worried. So, you know, you're all, and then you go to sleep and you don't know. But fortunately, if you take it easy, you just say, okay, I'm going to make it. So in the morning, I got up and I was okay. You know, I had a good sleep because of the tiring hike, and then you're back to normal. So yes, you need to, it's the definitely at some points where it's quite steep, you do find it tough, but so it's the mental challenges is what will get you through, you know, however much physically fit you are or not fit also, it can pull you through. In fact, I was surprised to see for some people, for me, it was very cold, but I'll just be quick. There was a lady who was from the US, and she found it quite hot. So even at 18,000 feet, she was just in a strapped outfit and shorts, and she was probably 80, but she was not finding the cold, and we were having these 3 layers and 4 layers, and but she was challenged to go up, climb, because it was the oxygen was less, but it was her mental toughness which pulled her through, you know, and that was really admirable.
The mental, and that actually leads to our next segment. If you're watching this broadcast on Facebook or YouTube, or if you're watching it on any of our channels, send us a comment. If you've climbed the Mount Everest, share a photo and tell us what you thought of that experience. This month of July, we are focusing on recharging our businesses, recharging ourselves, going back to school. And so we want you to think about that mountain and how you're going to get recharged. And we hope that Brian's story of climbing the Mount Everest inspires you today. So our next guest on our show is two very valuable people. They're so valuable because they're making a breakthrough, and